I'm going to provide a link to my previous video on this topic, which was a video response to Tropics XLR's video, because this video is just an update of that application. And so first of all, for those who are familiar with the remastered version, I have made a remastered version as well. So this is my Test Drive 6 folder on my desktop, and this is my Test Drive 6 remastered folder on my desktop. I'm going to open up my remastered with this application that I made to swap cars, and also it does something else too, something new. We don't use the BMW because there's two cars that if you swap it with this tool that I made, if you use the BMW and McLaren EXE, it won't work. For those who have never heard of the remastered version, you just go to this video on YouTube. From the video description, you just have to say show more. It's there. And for those who play PS and want to try this tool but don't have the PC version, you can just go to this URL. So I'll provide a link for all these in the video description. But this is where I got this version that will work on Windows 10. And then when you download the ISO version to your computer, just from Windows 10, at least this is how I can install it. You right click on here and you say mount. And then once you do, then you can install. So you press setup. So you just follow the prompts and install from here, and that's it. But just make sure that you install it to your desktop for reasons mentioned in the previous video. That's if you want to use this application that this video is about. I had the original disk, but I just couldn't get it to work on Windows 10, but this does. But anyway, so I'm going to put this on the right. I'm going to open up the patch files, which I'm going to provide a link to in the video description as well. The three that we need to copy into the folder, it won't hurt to copy them all, but I'm just going to copy the three that we actually need to. These three. So when you double click on the .hta file, that's the application. So if you haven't seen that video, please go watch it so you understand what's going on. But I'm going to open up Test Drive 6 Remastered, and remember that we're going to use the TD6 EXE, not the TD6 BMW McLaren. We're still going to be able to race with the BMW and McLaren cars because this is a car swapping tool. In order to be able to use all the cars, we have to use the TD6 EXE. Alright, so the first time you use this, just click the defaults button. It should be set at defaults, but just in case. And it took a few seconds for the screen to flash, but that means that it was set. Alright, so I guess we can play with class 1. Let me race with the Audi.
3, 2, 1, go!
Just pay attention to the speed. See, normal stuff. And in the remastered version, the cars seem to accelerate at a slower rate because this is the actual... If we go to the README in the remastered version, he leaves the physics of the cars more like real acceleration, drivability, weight, and so on. And I'll get to this in a little bit. That's what the image is for, which you can see from the download. It's basically a chart comparing... I guess I can mention it now. We go to car list. It's just a chart, an image showing the Test Drive 6 versus Test Drive 6 Remastered, what the cars' names are. So for those who like a certain car from one version and go to another, they're not the same by any means. They race completely differently, but these are the actual cars that he replaced with them, and the abbreviations is for those who are familiar with the cars game files, if they're curious to see what cars are controlled by which abbreviation. But anyway, we can see that it's normal. There's nothing special about it. So just as a quick demonstration, and then now in the drop down I have class. I already had a space in between them in the previous video, but these are the names of the cars for the remastered version in here. I got them all from the race menu from both EXEs, from this one and from this one when you go to the buy menu, except for the TVR, which he did not in the menu. He did not have the full name. He just had TVR Speed 12, but I saw it from the README, so I put that in. But let me swap this car with like the Lotus GT1. And I say change cars. You have to say change cars first. And whatever changes you make, if you don't say change cars and you exit out, it's going to remember it when you come back in, so that's fine. So it's user friendly in that way.
3, 2, 1, go!
See, very slow for a class 4 car, the way it accelerates compared to Test Drive 6. So if people want to use this for speed run, the Test Drive 6 Remastered, you're actually doing yourself a disservice, I think, because it's just really, really slow. I mean, it could be the same acceleration, but it just seems slower. And just note that the super mod of Test Drive Speedrun said that that's not allowed, that you cannot use the remastered version to race on the Test Drive 6 speedrun page anyway. And using this tool itself, the only way it's acceptable as of right now, unless which I'll get to a little bit later, that maybe you want to race with a Class 4 car that's upgraded in a track that you can't normally race with an upgraded Class 4 car in, that we can see what kind of times are possible should that have been allowed in the original game. That's something I didn't even talk to him about though. But other than that, if we go to resources on Speedrun, I had this patch in the past where you could swap just the McLaren and the BMW cars. I'm going to add this tool to that area so that you can use this instead of that if you have Windows at least. That you can race with the McLaren or the BMW from the Class 4 hitting cars, or with the 3 hitting cars that are in Class 2. And speaking of which, I need to add these 3 cars to the drop down on Speedrun when you want to submit a run. So as of right now, that's the only legitimate reason to use this for Speedrun if you are interested at all in Speedrun. But you cannot use any of the other options on here because this is going to be unfair to the leaderboards on there. And I'll get into that in a little bit, but it should be obvious. Now, what is different about this version? Let me first of all check Class 6 as an option for the car that I was racing with. And I have to also, again, say, change cars. The purple background is not something that this program changed. I just made that for myself. The purple sky. You see how fast this car moves? Oh man, I hate those cop cars. I wish there could be a way that if I hit them, I wouldn't flip over like that. That cop car would go flying instead of me. Oh, okay, well look, check impact resistant and then you can do that. So let me run it again. Alright, let's try this again.
3, 2, 1, go!
Ha! There you go. And that noise, if I'm going to race with this and I hear that noise all the time, that's going to be annoying. And that noise is necessary because this car's engine and maneuverability requires the tires to basically scrape the road for it to stay stable. And so you're going to hear that screeching noise all the time. So that's what this mute skid sound is for. So if I click that. Okay, so let's try this again. Oh, it's snowing here. What's this? Okay, well this is not a part of this either, but if y'all want me to do this change too, I can, to make it snow wherever you want. I can make something like this to do that. And that was a mistake. But I just want to show that we don't hear that noise anymore, right? Clearly it made it, right? But you don't hear that anymore. Okay, so we're setting that way. But I have no competition. Where are the other cars? This car's way better than them, right? It's way better. So one last thing and then I'll explain that. So if you check AI Racer, it can only be one or the other, the AI Racer or the Class 6. That makes sense. So if I have it check this one, it's going to uncheck the Class 6. So I'm going to have the car that I've been racing with, Class 6, and I'm going to make all of them, all the remaining ones I should say, this version. So basically Class 6 means it's a car that I would imagine being a Class 6 car if a Class 6 car existed in Test Drive 6, because if we go to Speedrun and then we change the leaderboards to level leaderboard so we can see the individual levels where I competed a lot in, I'm C-Mola. Let's go to Rome for example and let's take a look at Class 1. I have upgraded car records here. I mean, who wants to race with Class 1 that's not upgraded? Okay, well, probably several people, but I just can't. That's just too slow for me. But anyway, the current world record for upgraded Class 1 cars, 2 minutes and 41 seconds. If I go to Class 3, which I also have a record in, for a car that is not upgraded, The record is 2 minutes and 46 seconds. So they're roughly the same time. Similarly, let me go somewhere else that I know I've raced with cars that have a difference of 2 classes, like Switzerland for example. If I go to class 2, car that is upgraded for class 2 is 29 seconds about. I go to class 4, a car that's not upgraded is roughly the same time. I mean, the BMW is a huge exception to the rule, but 29 seconds for second best time. But it's still around the same time. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that if there's one class that a car is not upgraded and you have a class that's 2 classes lower than it that is upgraded, the times that you achieve with them should be similar. Especially with tracks where it's not just straight roadway like Paris, but there's a lot of twists and turns. With this class 6 engine, I call it, which you can apply to every single car. But the AI doesn't race with this class 6 engine very well. It races with this AI racer settings that I have instead, so a human probably can't race with these AI racer settings very well, at least not from the practice menu that we see. So I need to change the cars to update this. You have to change the cars for every change you make if you want to see it in the game. And the game can be open, as I mentioned in the previous video. But I'm just going to try to complete this race in snow to show you how good they are now. And I don't have them impact resistant either though. I should have put them as impact resistant. Let me make them impact resistant too. It's probably good to make it fair. If I'm impact resistant, they should be too. Just that we can give a fair assessment of how well they can perform with this setting. Because you want to be able to be challenged. And if you have a class 6 engine and you race with them, it's challenging. Especially in tracks like Jordan. But in tracks like Pelton Raceway where the AI racers always sucked anyway, it's not going to be too much of a challenge. But if you race with a class 1 through class 4 car, it should be a real challenge. It may even be impossible, on some tracks at least, to beat them.
3, 2, 1, go!
I'm going to complete the race, but you're going to see it, how they race. They have acceleration, but they have a lot more going for them that they can work with. Because you can try to adjust the acceleration. They're going to be crashing into walls and getting stuck like they do in London, but on every track if you're not careful. But with these settings, they're extremely good. I'm going faster than world record pace with the upgraded class 4 cars right now because this is a class 6 car. Yeah, they're keeping up with me. And it's important to notice that if they keep up with me the entire time. Because on some tracks when I was first doing this, they would get stuck with a certain part of the track. They would be good on one part of the track but not on the others. So let's see if they can maintain the entire track. The top speed of this car I set to 240. So you see that you can race with any cars you want, and any of them can be fast. It doesn't matter what the car is. So if you like the car and you want to race with it, or just have it be one of your competitors, and I am second place at 2 minutes and 1 second. So all of them achieved a time faster than world record time. You think that's something? Let's check out Jordan. And while I'm at it, let me change them all to something else. Let's make them all like the Corvette cop car or something. I guess I can change some of them to the other cop cars too, just for fun. Let's change cars. See how fast the 7-zip version is. Okay.
3, 2, 1, go!
Hey, I'll just go one lap to show you how far ahead they can get here. And this Class 6 car drives really well. So you'll find that all the parts of tracks that really would throw you off, for the most part, it does very well. And when you're racing with this and you see the cars swap, they're not the names of the cars that you're actually racing with. If you want to know, you just come to here, right? It's going to tell you what car is substituted in each slot. So you can see who you raced with, who achieved that time. If you always wondered if you could race in Jordan Forward with an upgraded Class 4 car, all you have to do is have a car from the buy menu that can race there. So that would be of a different class. I'll provide this list in a text file in the attachments as well. Any of these circuit tracks that you want to race in, that you want to use like an upgraded Class 4 car to race in to see what kind of time you can achieve in the forward direction versus the backward direction. This is just one example. Any of these circuit tracks that you want to race in, that you want to see an upgraded car that you're not able to race with usually, you can now because you can swap cars. So let's take like Class 2 Tournament 1 for example, Jordan Forward. So all you would have to do is go to Class 2, buy a car, use this tool to swap that car from Class 2 with whatever car you want. So let's say you want to race with the Toyota, so you select that to swap with if you buy the Dodge Intrepid. And you swap it immediately before you do any upgrades so you can see how they affect the car and then make adjustments and buy upgrades and stuff like that. And then you can race there. I know of one tool in the past where you can switch tracks, but when you have cars that can swap like this, switching tracks is technically not necessary anymore. Although it could still help if you don't want to have to do this adjustment stuff, that you have to keep redoing it from one track to another. But anyway, if you want to pin this to your start menu, this is what you're going to have to do. I go to my remastered folder. One of the files I asked you to copy into here was this one. So you double click on it. And that's going to create the shortcut with the icon for you. It gets the icon from the folder with the files that you shouldn't touch. The icon's there. Do that automatically for you. But then from the README, I have something that you need to copy to your clipboard. So here it is. Include the space after the C. This is under how to run this application. So I'm going to copy that with Control C. You're going to right click on the shortcut that it made. In the target box, you're just going to press the home key or just arrow left until you get to the very beginning and Control V or paste it in and press enter. Now you can right click on here and say pin to start. So it's there. But when you run it from here, then just as in the previous video where I mentioned that this window is going to pop up, it's the same here if you want to call it from the start menu. For some reason, at least on Windows 10 that I have, this is going to pop up with it. But you can X out of it when it first comes up to get out of your way. It's not going to hurt anything to get rid of it, and then you can use it. But again, if you just double click on this, that won't come up anymore. Alright, so that's it. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.